All right. So I am now bringing in one of my great friends, and he's a great friend of the community as well. He's a great friend of SafeSpace and just an overall amazing human being. And most of you all know him. And if you haven't been to his restaurant, guess what? They're open. They did great. They've done great all week, and today's Friday night, so I'm assuming they super booked, especially before Mother's Day. So Kyle, hi, how are you?
Hi, Emmelis. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you for giving us some time during this, crazy coronavirus pandemic craziness and readjusting. How is it looking? I know you've made some changes on in the restaurant menu. What can people expect?
Yeah, so I mean, really, it's been quite the last couple of weeks, as you can imagine. But you know what? It's looking really well. I like to be optimistic. Over the time that we had our quarantine forced vacation, more or less, we had a great opportunity to really kind of refine what we were going to do. So, when we kind of looked at, we were going to be having, mandated reduced seating capacity, as well as probably, our a long-term guest perception of social distancing. We really adjusted and pivoted a little bit to really focus a little bit more on our recipes and our service to kind of make sure that experience is even more special than we already did. So we've kind of just really refined what we do, and really focus on what we do great or what we do well, and working on doing it great. So the last couple of days we had soft openings Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and pretty much we're booked solid for the next 10 days. And if we can get to 50% capacity, we can open it up a little bit. But yeah, we're booked solid at 25%, and just trying to do it the right way, not overbook, and really just make sure we do our part to continue to be responsible, as we always have, but just a little more attention on some of the new mandates that have come out since obviously coronavirus has been a thing. So yeah, it's going really well.
Yeah, now it's Mother's Day weekend, so obviously this is normally a busy weekend for restaurants anyway. So you taking the time on Friday evening to talk to us is very highly appreciated. SafeSpace loves you. SafeSpace appreciates you very much, and
My
we'll
pleasure.
support your restaurant. So if you guys have time this weekend or next weekend and you're ready to go out and have some fun and some really amazing food, go check out Kyle and check out his restaurant and his new menu items. Now, I know you've done something special for the mothers, with the mother's theme for our viewers. You've selected, I think you have two selections that are
I've talked about two different winemakers, but three selections. So
even better.
yeah, right.
So which one do you want to start with?
I'm going to start with one that you guys probably all are very familiar with. I'll start here and get in close. You guys see the yellow label, Veuve Clicquot. Say that again?
That's a woman's best friend.
Exactly. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about it, and there's a reason why I picked it for Mother's Day, right? There's a lot of history behind this that I recently just learned that I didn't know. Of course, it's great. It's good value. I think in the store it's probably around $45. Great way to celebrate. However, what's great about it, before I get into some of the tasty notes, is Madame Veuve Clicquot was one of the first female. She was the first female champagne house owners in France. And she is actually the reason why your champagne and sparkling wines today are clear. So if any of you guys remember or have seen pictures or videos, people used to drink champagne out of wide mouth coupe glasses versus the thin flutes that we drink out of today. And so the reason why is because when you make champagne, your juice goes into the bottle, then they add the yeast, and that's how it ages. So the sugar in the juice feeds off of the yeast, and it builds the alcohol, and it builds the CO2, which pressurizes inside the bottle. Well, that yeast used to settle at the bottom of the bottle here, as it sat in their cellars for usually about 2 months, maybe not 2 months, 2 years, 18 months. And so then they would just pop it and drink it, right? Well, Madame Veuve Clicquot came up with a process called riddling, and it's an A-frame rack where the bottle will sit at about a 45-degree angle. And every day someone will come in and give it an eighth of a turn, right? And then turn it back, and then they turn it back, and then this, and they do this 24 times. And basically, you have these guys that go down into the champagne cellars, and they just keep turning it like this. What that does is it forces the yeast to the bottom of the neck, and just those minor turns help break up and dissolve the yeast, which helps clarify it.
Wow.
So they discovered that, and that's why you're able to drink out of the flutes. And what's good about that is, when you have those wide mouth glasses, the bubbles have a larger amount of surface area to escape from. So your champagne actually warms up faster and goes flat faster. So now when you have the flutes, there's less surface area for those bubbles to escape, and it actually stays colder because there's less exposure to the air, because glass doesn't transfer heat very well. So it actually makes it for a much better drinking experience for champagne. So it's really cool how she was able to just change that whole process, and modern day champagnes are now clear. So little just Mother's Day fun fact.
I love that, because people that are watching this, I have yet to meet somebody who's told me that they don't like that selection of champagne. So
right, exactly.
Use it as a gift for your mother or your spouse, or a mother that you love within your family. Or I think you have now a little bit of a story and talking points and conversations to have. And the great thing about champagne is it's not too heavy, so you can have it at brunch time, and
Yep.
and you can have it at nighttime.
It goes great with pancakes.
Or chicken and waffles.
Or chicken and waffles, absolutely.
Just great with everything. But now we have a little bit of the story that people can actually talk to their mothers and start a good conversation with that. So that's a great selection. So what's selection number 2, Amiger?
So selection number 2 is actually Veuve Clicquot Rosé. So it's a little bit higher on price point at the store, but I want to talk about it because it's a very similar process. And when they make a rosé wine, when you think about champagne, right? It's made out of Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier, right? So Chardonnay is a white skin grape, Pinot Noir is a red skin grape. What they do, and so is Pinot Meunier. So what they do is they leave the skin in contact with the juice when they crush it for a little bit to extract some of that color. And so you get a little bit of the sweetness, you get some of the tannins, and you get some of the color, which is what makes it rosé. And they make a little less of it, and it's a little bit more involved, which is what brings that price point up. So both are great selections. And going back to the Veuve Clicquot Brut, if you're out with your mom, at least here at our restaurant, you can get it by the glass. We charge, I think, like $19 a glass, and to ensure that you get it very fresh, we have this deal here. This is called a perlage, and basically so I'm gonna put it together for you. So basically what this does, imagine if the bottle was open, this sits inside here like this. This goes down on top of the bottle here, and what it does is we would open the bottle, and it has a little nozzle here, right? So we have, where'd I put it?
This is the beauty of live TV.
So what we have is you have your perlage here. The bottle would be open, and what we do is we would take this off, and you can kind of see here where it would open, and we would be able to pour it into the glass. And then we take this, which has a CO2 canister in it, and we would blow the oxygen out of the wine, close it up, and then seal it again. So what it does is it makes sure that the wine's not oxidizing, making it go flat, and this will preserve it for about 4 weeks. So that's pretty cool.
It's really unique, because one of the things that I found out that's hard for me of champagne is, I don't always want to finish the bottle at that time, but then how do you properly store champagne without it losing the whole effect of champagne, which is the bubbles? And so I didn't realize that we have that. So if you are planning on going to Kyle's and having a long dinner, your champagne is not going to die, because now he has this item that will help keep the bubbles there and preserve the wine.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So
before we go to the next one, you are a sommelier. I don't think enough people know that. Right. And I want you to just go to the basics. Wine and champagne. besides what we can actually taste, which is the bubbles, what is the difference between them? Is there a difference?
So yes, there is. So, you know, when you ever go to the grocery store and you see the, just kind of that like wet dew on a grape, or you have grapes in your fridge and that you pull them out and they're moist. And you can kind of like wipe your finger on it and you see like the trace of your finger there. That's actually natural yeast that grows on the skin. And that skin protects the flesh and the juice from the grape from that yeast. So in order for alcohol to be made and fermentation process to happen, you have to mix those two together. And the only way to do that is crush it. That's why, you know, when they first started making wine, they'd put them in a big barrel and just get in there and start stomping on them to interact that yeast with the juice. And then the fermentation process would happen, and then they would take that and then they would age it. So with wine, when they crush it, right, and they have their skin contact and everything like that, that's begins the fermentation process. It's done so that it's in a barrel, which is not airtight. So that CO2 that is given off is able to escape, right? And it's very similar in the process of bread making. So you ever had to make bread or pizza dough and you let your dough rise? Well,
no,
it's right.
Child, geez, make my bread.
I don't blame you. And, you know, so what happens is the dough captures that gas and it rises, and then you got to punch it down, and then you got to do a second rise. So it's the same concept. The difference between wine and champagne is so wine's aged or not aged, but the fermentation process happens in barrels and sometimes tanks, but they allow the CO2 to escape. Where with champagne, once they go through the initial fermentation, sometimes they add a little more yeast. And then if you go to the cellars, you'll actually see the bottles. They don't have corks; they have bottle caps, because what they do is they let it age on the yeast, and they retain that fermentation and the bubbles inside the bottle. And then what they'll do is they'll pop the bottle cap. They'll extract whatever solid yeast is left. They'll put a little bit more juice in, and then the cork goes on. So that's really the main difference, is kind of how they go through their fermentation process.
Which is interesting, because I've heard people that love champagne but don't like wine. And then there's people like me that absolutely love wine, but I'm not necessarily a huge fan of champagne. And it's primarily that fermentation process what makes the biggest difference.
Correct.
Essentially, they're made out of grapes. So, you know, it's, but I guess it's also the reason why grape juice doesn't taste like wine. So,
right, exactly.
You know,
well, it's funny because people that like Pinot Noir and Chardonnay may not like Champagne, but those are the two main grapes in Champagne. Like Veuve Clicquot, the yellow label, is about 50% Pinot Noir, 30% Chardonnay, and then the other 20% Pinot Meunier. So, you know, you get a lot of these characteristics. And of course, to be Champagne, it has to be from Champagne, France, which grows these grapes really well. So
right. Otherwise, it's called sparkling wine.
Correct. Or, you know, in Spain, they call it cava, and Prosecco in Italy and all that. So, yeah, they have all their different laws and, you know, different grapes. You know, you can make a sparkling wine in California, you know, out of Sauvignon Blanc, in theory, if you wanted to. I'm not saying that they do that, but, you know, the labeling laws in each country are different. So.
Okay. So now you're going to my type of wine. Yep.
So this one I thought was really cool. This is called Bonanza. You might have seen it at the stores. I want to say it's about $20 to $25 a bottle at like Publix or Total Wine or something like that. You know, the name's cool, the label's cool. It's from California. But what I really like about this, a little bit history here, is, remember, you guys, anybody like Meiomi, or do you like to drink Meiomi Pinot Noir? So Meiomi Pinot Noir started, is from the Camus family, right? Which was part of, or had relations to Belglas. So it was kind of like considered baby Belglas. And what it was called the triple appellation. So, you know, it came from 3 different regions that grow Pinot Noir inside California. And that was able to help them bring that cost down. Originally, when Meiomi came out, it was like $10 a bottle, right? Now it's a lot more, and they've mass produced it. So that original flavor profile that it was, which made it great, has certainly changed, in my opinion. Bonanza, same story. It's Cabernet Sauvignon. It's made by the Camus family. And so if anyone likes Camus and knows Camus, familiar with Camus, they know it's expensive, big Napa Cab. This is Caymus's baby brother, and a lot of people don't know that till you turn around and read the back of the label, and you see the Caymus truck right here with Chuck Wagner on the back. And can you see that, Emmelis?
Yes, I do.
So and then you see here on the bottom Chuck Wagner, who's the owner or maker of Keaney. So same concept. It's triple appellation. So they've got some juice coming from Napa. They have some juice coming from Sonoma, and then the county north of it, which I forgot what it is, but it's kind of like the new frontier for Cabernet Sauvignon. They've been blending this and mixing this. Now, also too, the Bonanza. What's great about it is it's technically called non-vintage. So what that means is it's not a specific year. So they're blending different years together from the triple appellations to have just a really diverse and good quality wine where they can really target that price point, and that helps bring their production costs down but still be able to deliver great quality juice. So again, you're getting Napa, Sonoma, and I forgot the county that's just north of it, but they grow great quality Cabernet Sauvignon, and the price of the property just hasn't exploded there like it has in Napa Valley. So it's really a great quality wine. When you're looking for value, in my opinion, for $20-25 at the grocery store, this probably drinks like a $60-70 bottle of wine. We offer it here at the restaurant. I want to say it's like $10 or $11 a glass, maybe, because the prices for us in retail is certainly different. But yeah, it's phenomenal. It's a great everyday drinking wine.
So it's a wine that if you're on a budget, you can still impress with. Because a lot of people think the higher the price of the wine, the better the wine is. But that's not always the case because people have different taste profiles. And
some wineries are really good at marketing. And the thing is, wine is about personal preference, right? So it's, what do you like to drink? What do you like to eat? What do you like to mix it with? And some people like wines and I'm just like, hey, that's not my deal. But this one here, like I said, it's a good crowd pleaser. Just like you said, if you want to impress someone who hasn't had it before, like I said, it's going to drink like, 4 times what it costs. You can hold it up to just about anything. Great for steaks, great for cheese, great for chicken, pork, heavier seafood items, or just everyday drinking. Like, you don't need a slice of blue cheese and a dry aged steak to go with it. You could just drink it on your porch and relax, And again, for not overly expensive, it's amazing value.
So one more thing, I just want to compare it in my head, for example, because I know some people that want a higher end bottle of wine as well. This would be like the Overture to Opus 1.
In that analogy, yes, because just like Overture is also a non-vintage, they're aging, different vintages, and then they'll blend some of those grapes together to make Overture, and then Overture just has a very limited amount because of how much juice they have to work with. But in the sense, yes, because it's kind of like the baby brother to Opus, absolutely.
Which is funny because I remember the first time I tried the Opus wine, and it was Opus 1 wine. I can't even get my words out. And it was a great experience, but I will never forget the first time that I had a bottle of Overture. And I think it in a way has to do with just my taste profile, like an earthier wine. But Overture, I think it's the second press of that grape, and therefore has a tad bit of more body.
So how they make that? Because Opus was actually the first winery I ever went to in Napa Valley when I went out there, and it was pretty cool. I got a friend that works out there, and he's like, hey, I'll get you hooked up. The Opus guys come into my space all the time. So I said, all right, great, let's go. And that was actually where I discovered Overture and how they make it. So Opus 1, they have every year, right? And they're growing their grapes in their vineyards. So every year and it's a Bordeaux blend. So Bordeaux blend means there's 5 grapes in Bordeaux that make up a Bordeaux traditionally: Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Malbec, Merlot, and Petit Verdot. So they'll blend those together. Now, depending upon how well each of those grapes do in their vineyards, depends upon how much as a percentage of that grape's going to go into that year's Opus 1 to get the best flavor out of the grapes, right? So if they have a year where, they produced a lot of Malbec, but they only use 15% or 20% of the total Opus blend, but they have all this Merlot juice left over, they're going to continue to age that by itself. And then over, about 2 or 3 years, then they taste whatever juice they have left, because it's not leftover juice, it's not bad juice. What it is they just needed a certain amount to get the opus flavor, right? So they might have some residual left over. They blend that together, and once that's blended together, they blend it, and that's what they call the overture. So, what I like about overture, A, is certainly the decreased cost, which, and then B, what I like about it is you're sampling sometimes 3 to 5 years of every vintage of opus, the last 5 years of opus, and you're getting all of that in one bottle, which is really cool, because you're kind of getting the best of a lot of different vintages and grapes, and you really get a great experience, because you can almost, instead of just saying, hey, this happened really well in 2014, so it wasn't too wet, it wasn't too dry, it was perfect. You kind of get a nice blend of all of it, and it's a really great drinking wine. We did an opus tasting in December, and we started with the overture, and then we did 14, 15, and 16, and some of my guests loved the opus overture more than the 14, 15, or 16, and it was just really cool. So,
which would be me. And so that's why I wanted to bring it up, because sometimes people think that the higher the expense, the higher the price, or the more expensive,
right,
the better it would be. And that's not always the case. So I think Bonanza is a great choice for people that still want to impress on a budget, or if you want to impress somebody who's never, like you said, never had the bottle and doesn't think of buying it because it's in the lower price range, but it is a great bottle. So before you go, because I know the restaurant's picking up, I want a glass of that. You think I can have some?
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me open it for you.
That'd be great. I mean, it is happy hour after all.
It is happy hour. Who doesn't like a good happy hour?
And we are celebrating Mother's Day. So stay tuned while I get this glass that Kyle is preparing for me, which I am excited because I actually have never tried this wine before. So I'm probably going to go when I go back to Kyle G's, that I will be coming really, really soon. I will be most certainly trying this one because I'm curious to see how it's.
That's with you.
So, all right. Do you think I can?
Here's everyone. Here you go, Emmelis.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kyle. So, y'all have you have a great weekend. I know you're packed today, so I wish you the best of luck. This COVID-19 has been, I won't say devastating, but definitely challenging in so many ways to all of us. But you were there for the community throughout. I was here for you. SafeSpace is here for you, like you've been for us. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon. And you guys stay tuned, because now I want to honor some of special mothers that SafeSpace knows and that work at SafeSpace. So cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Emmelis. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Hi, everyone over there at SafeSpace. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you, Kyle. All right, let's look at these pictures. So we have the spirit of our board of directors, Mr. Dan Pimpo, who works with Toshiba. And he's been a longtime board member, and he's been an incredible energy with our organization. And so, so you can see he continues to be an incredible energy. So he definitely wanted to reach out because he knows that it takes a community to run an organization like SafeSpace, that it takes a community to help these victims become survivors, and it takes a community to help them thrive. So Danny, talk to us a little bit about, well, you know SafeSpace very well. You've been involved for a very long time. Tell all the viewers, why is it so important that, especially in honor of Mother's Day, considering that this live broadcast is My Mother, My Safe Space, why is it so important that they really, if they have the ability to give, that they do so?
Well, thank you, Emmelis, and hello, everyone. out there in Facebook land. You know, we're living in some very critical times right now, and the pandemic that we've all been experiencing, the loneliness, the seclusion, the not being able to do the norm that you've been doing your whole life, because this is unprecedented of what we're experiencing. And you know, Safe Space is about domestic violence. Safe Space is about giving people the courage to leave and the empowerment to thrive. And 98% of our thriving is coming from women. And our sheriff's departments, our police departments are all in line saying how domestic violence has gone through the roof during this pandemic. Our President Trump has even spoken live across the nation about the uptick of domestic violence. I'm privileged, I'm honored. I was the past board president last year to serve in this organization under Jill Borowitz, which was our past CEO, and our new president, Joyce Page. She's phenomenal. And, you know, Safe Space, we're in it. We're in the trenches. We're here. We're here to help you. We're here to share what we do best. And we're asking you to be part of the timing to give back, to help make a difference, to show the victims there is a way out, there is hope, there is faith to believe that you're not trapped, that the door is not closed, the door is open. And so, Emmelis, it's an honor, and you know, we're doing something very different in this time frame. We're live, we're on Facebook, we're trying to reach you, the community, to go deep, dig, to find dollars to help us continue in the mission from your heart. You go deep in your heart and find out what you can give, even if it's the widow's mite. Because I'm going to tell you, $42 a day feeds a child. I'm going to go through some numbers soon, and they're staggering. And we are here to help you, the community, but we need your help. There's a link that you're going to see on the chat room. And that link, all you got to do is press it and give. Give from your heart. You know, churches today are suffering. They're not meeting. Groups aren't meeting. People are, nonprofits all throughout the community are trying to find that, you know, peace to move the hearts of the people to give back to their organizations to help during this pandemic. And we, I believe truly we're on the forefront. You know, domestic violence is not going away. It's moved on a scale, 120% a day. It's moving. And
I wanna talk to the people that think that, well, you know, I'm not really a wealthy individual. You know, I could give only $10, and I don't know if that makes a difference.
You know, Emmelis, great. It does. You know, $5, $1, you know, whatever you can give moves in our bucket. And when we disperse monies in Safe Space and what we use the dollars for in Safe Space, our programs, I mean, we have an incredible core program setup that Safe Space prides themselves on. I mean, you have things like the emergency shelter, probably number one. We're not going to tell you where it is here, but if you need that shelter, click on that link, send a chat message. Our staff is watching, our support is watching. We're going to reach you. We're going to show you where to go and how to get into the emergency shelter if you need that. There's a 24-hour hotline. There's victim advocacy. There's children's programs. There's prevention programs. There's supportive living programs. You know, investing in the advocacy of Safe Space. You know, recently we added a children's section for nursing and birthing for mothers. We had 3 birthing mothers over the Christmas holidays in our shelter. One broke her water over Christmas. You know, Safe Space, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. The feeding of the children, the feeding of the mothers, the care in their own special room, their own linen, their own safe space. And imagine having 59 to 70 individuals, women and children alike, sharing a shelter. 2 kitchens, feeding food 24 hours a day, a pantry. Folks, every little dollar helps. You know, a dollar can buy, a dollar can literally buy a batch of bananas. I mean, you take $5 and what that can do from a drink standpoint of sodas and water. $4.98 at Sam's gives me 40 bottles of Zephyr Hills water. Take it up another notch, $10, $17, $20 buys a basket of Bounty paper towels.
Diapers,
we look at diapers.
Baby wipes, yep.
It's amazing. Every dollar, Emmelis, that can come in, we're going to use, and we're going to utilize it for the victims, for the shelter, for all the core programs as well. So whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 100, I've got people giving right now $1,000. I just saw a $5,000 check come through. You see, this is what it's about. We have people moved in their heart to give. And I'm going to go there and say this. Many of us were blessed with a check from the government, weren't we? Many of us may not even needed that check. What are you doing with it? Are you buying your favorite outfit? Are you investing it? Are you buying food that you really don't need? Take a portion of that. You know, the church teaches 10%. Take 5%, take 20. Take a percentage of that check that was given to you so graciously by our government. And thank you, President Trump. But every piece of that will help us move where we're going in our vision and putting a stop to domestic violence, Emmelis. That's what moves me.
It's a partnership between the community, the organization, the board of directors, the volunteers. It's a partnership, it's a team effort, and it takes funds. It takes funds for you to survive every day in your life. It takes funds to run an organization like this and help our victims become survivors. And like Danny was saying, diapers, baby wipes, formula, baby formula, utilities, you know, per month. It's not a huge amount of dollar-wise, but 1 month of worth of utilities, if you donate that amount, that saves us a whole lot of utilities. So, you know, whether it's the electric bill,
you know, Emmelis, it's amazing.
That goes a long way.
Our thrift store had to be shut down 2 months ago because of this pandemic. We were generating $40,000, $50,000 a month through that outlet. We've stopped hence gaining that. We need you, people. We need you to step it up. We need you to continue to give. We need you to help us. You know, we wear purple. October is Domestic Violence Month throughout the nation, and purple is the color. You see these shoes over here. That's one of our marked events that we've done for years.
We're gonna get to that in a little bit, but for right now, I'm gonna give everybody a break to click on the link, donate, whatever you can give, and then
click on that link.
Come back to the feed, and then we're gonna let Danny, because I mean, I know it's cooling down because it's later at night, but it's still really hot, and he has a really nice suit, so we're gonna let him go drink some water and refresh, and then he's gonna come back and talk to us about those shoes, and maybe he'll even wear them. So in the meantime, I want you to watch this next clip and click on the link to donate, and then we'll see you right back in just a little bit, okay?
Okay, Emmelis, get your checkbooks out, start writing that check.
And credit cards, we take credit cards.
Credit cards, listen, we're here. We'll take a bag of gold at the step side in our tour. Anything that you can do now to help us get this domestic violence gone, eradicated, get to it.
And guess what? If you are donating or you have donated already throughout this live feed, what I want you to do is put the hashtag on the comments, put the hashtag against domestic violence. Put the hashtag against domestic violence so that we can acknowledge you throughout the live feed on the chat room. And thank you so much already for giving if you have. And if you haven't, please consider whatever amount you can spare. If you're not spending time taking your mom to dinner maybe this weekend because you're still careful about the coronavirus, consider donating that dinner money to in honor of your mom. You can put her name on the room as well. So, all right, we'll be back with Danny and myself in a little bit. Just watch this clip.
Thank you.
So I hope you all enjoy those pictures. We have amazing women that are working with our organization that are mothers, so happy mothers to them. And I have a great mother now too that's a guest of this live feed that we're doing, that she's taking time this Friday evening all the way from Miami to speak with us. And the importance of having her to me in this live feed is I want to introduce you to her, Dr. Teresa Albizu, who is our new CEO at SafeSpace beginning June 1st. So we are very excited for her to get started. SafeSpace is very excited for her to get started. And I want to say she's very excited to get started too. So how are you, Teresa?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad to be here with you today to speak of this very important issue.
I know. It's so, just so you know, Dr. Teresa has a doctoral degree in leadership, and she's also a fellow of the National Hispanic Leadership Institute. And for years, she's dedicated to working with family issues, victims of domestic violence, victims of abuse, and to deal marriage issues as well. So she's just very well trained and experienced with this kind of issues that SafeSpace, right here, SafeSpace deals with on a daily basis. And I wanted to bring her on so you guys can learn a little bit about her and see her, get to put a face to the name we've been talking about in the community. She's actually making a jump from Miami up to here just to come help us with the organization. So we're super excited about that. You know, one of the biggest things that's very relevant right now with domestic violence issues, besides SafeSpace, just domestic violence issues overall, is the COVID-19 challenges, the additional challenges that domestic violence victims face during a quarantine situation. You know, the stay-at-home order has been partially lifted in Florida, and looks like it soon will be lifted all around in Florida. But there's many states where they're still under quarantine, they're still under stay-at-home order. What does that environment look like for a victim that's forced to stay with her abuser?
Well, it has created an unprecedented issue for victims of domestic violence because this quarantine situation and stay at home means that now, if we speak of women as the majority representation of victims in domestic abuse, is that now we're stuck at home, right, with the abuser. And if we understand that abuse and domestic violence, it's all about power and control, then now the abuser can exert even higher control over their victims. So for example, not allowing these women to leave the home for any reason. Some of them have reported being stuck at home because their partner reports concerns with them getting the COVID-19 virus, and they place some real strong and strict restrictions on what they can do with their children in the case when they have children. They are now isolated from all the support networks that they typically have been able to have access to. So they're not able to go to support services, programs, even access a shelter in some occasions. They are not going to they don't take the kids to school, so now they don't have the ability to also to speak with teachers and other social networks that they typically have access to regarding what their situation are. So these women are feeling highly isolated, and it creates really a deep feeling of stress and hopelessness.
Yeah, I think it just it brings a whole nother level of stress and challenges and demands of the victim, and in a way, I think hopelessness as well, because they're not sure if because of this now they'll ever be able to get out of the situation. So speaking of getting out of the situation, because I recognize that it is very hard for a woman or any domestic violence victim. I mean, domestic violence victims are women, men, and children. So, but I know it's very hard to make that decision to leave, but then it's also even harder, I would think, to stay away from the battler, because a lot of the issues that we encounter at SafeSpace is that domestic violence victims once they leave, they find it so hard to move on with their lives that they end up actually going back to their abuser. So talk to us a little bit about that, and also about, I know we are expecting a surge in hotline calls and shelter admission once this stay-at-home mandate is lifted. So talk to us a little bit about that in your expertise.
So this situation has also created a big strain in these women in their ability to work on a safety plan, right? Which sometimes this includes saving a certain amount of money, making certain arrangements so that they can plan for exiting the abusive space where they are living. However, even if they are able to do that after the restrictions are lifted and they decide to take some action, there's some very deep feelings of fear about homelessness and poverty, because these women really depend on, in a big way, on the abuser's income, right, and household to be able to, feel safe in terms of basic human needs. So the fear of the absence of being able to meet those basic human needs creates a great sense of emotional distress, anxiety, fear, including PTSD, right? Because they don't want to find themselves thinking that they're going to have to come back to that household, even though, unfortunately, some women do come back precisely because of financial stressful situations and so forth. So I think that is a very unprecedented situation for these victims of domestic abuse. I think also that we are going to be seeing a massive surge in calls for assistance, because I think that a lot of these women have not been accessing the assistance that they need because they're in the home with the abuser. They don't want to be heard speaking with someone online. They don't want to be heard speaking with someone on the phone. Sometimes the abusers are even taking access to telephone and internet service away from them. So once they have some liberty, and especially once the abuser hopefully is able to leave the home as well in looking for employment again, that then they will be able to take some action and be able to call for help, seek shelter in some cases. And most importantly, these women are going to need a great deal of counseling and psychotherapy, because this is not just only about how to get over and away from physical or emotional abuse, but actually how to get over it in time to regain their power and their empowerment and their health.
Yeah, it's definitely, I agree with you. It's unprecedented time. So, we're dealing at SafeSpace as best as we can and try to give everybody as much support as they need, which is why we need the community to support us via donations through these difficult times, because we're going to need that extra help to be able to help these victims, the surge of victims, which is the saddest thing in the world to have a surge of victims after this. But we're really going to need that community financial support to do this and get through this next few months, if not the rest of the year. Now, not all women or not all victims that are victims of domestic violence are necessarily stay-at-home people. They're not household workers. So some of them have to go back to work as well. Now, I don't think enough employers and are aware that sometimes they have a domestic violence victim within their workforce. I want to get from you, because we're going to talk to Dr. Jack in a little bit. I want to get from you, what's it like? What goes through this person's mind that is a victim of domestic violence and now has to go back to the workforce and pretend that quarantine was just like everybody else's?
So when these women re-enter the workforce, they bring with them a great deal of stress and emotional distress. So it translates into sometimes loss of productivity, lack of ability to concentrate and function properly in the workplace. During the day, they might be very distracted with how they are going to deal upon returning home. If they have children, how they're going to monitor. and kind of control the abusive situation when they go home in the evening. So there are many aspects that they are definitely managing once they enter the workforce. Now, we know that at least in Florida in 2007, legislation was passed to be able to protect victims of domestic violence in the workforce. So for example, employers that have more than 50 employees need to have certain policies in place regarding support of domestic violence victims. They need to provide them with time to seek proper medical services, to be able to meet with advocates, domestic violence advocates, meet perhaps with their attorney, go to any court hearings that they may have to attend to, seek counseling and psychotherapy. But it's very limited. You know, as far as I know, it's about 3 days within the year that they can utilize this benefit to be able to deal with the aftermath of it. So I think this is a great opportunity for employers to be thinking out of the box as to how they're going to be able to prepare to support victims of domestic violence by instituting some proactive policies that allow them to better support all the challenges that these women are facing. And I think that there's an opportunity here to show our humanity, right? And to really show our conviction that every human being needs to be treated with integrity and respect. And that in times of need, if we're able to help, we should, right? Or we must provide that assistance. So I think that there's an opportunity, especially for human resources officers, to be able to start thinking about ways in which they're going to be able to provide support. Not that they will provide any counseling services, that's not their place, but refer them to the employee assistance program. Make sure that you have a list of all resources available out there in your community for domestic violence victims, and give them an opportunity to have the time to access those resources.
Great. Teresa, we're so excited for you to get up here, and we can't wait to start working with you. June 1st is your start date, so we're excited. Thank you so much. And let me just tell you guys, Teresa is not only the mother of one of my best friends, Jerry Rodriguez, attorney Jerry Rodriguez Albizu in Stewart. She is also a grandmother for what, the fourth time?
Fourth time, yeah.
Fourth time. As of last week of a beautiful baby. So congratulations, this mother.
Thank you.
We hope you're able, I don't know if you're going to be able to celebrate in person with family, but if you're not, I still hope you have a wonderful and then Mother's Day, and I hope you guys are able to get together again after COVID-19. So thank you so much for taking time. Go have a glass of wine on behalf of SafeSpace and support Teresa, support the efforts of SafeSpace, please. This is a great time to donate. I hope somebody in the chat room is putting the link of the different ways that you can contribute to us. You know, it's about helping victims not only to leave, but then also move on with their lives and become from victims to survivors. And that transition takes, money gives us access, so it takes funds to be able to help these victims to go through that transition. So thank you so much. And we'll see you, Teresa. Up next, it's Dr. Jack, and he's going to talk to us about, if you're an employer, he's going to talk to us about ideas of how you can actually identify any victims within your organization and try to help them, and how to address that situation, which is very common, but I don't think enough people actually realize that. So I have now one more clip to play for you. So while I can get Dr. Jack on the line, that's the beauty of live broadcasting. You know, you have connection issues, technical issues, so we're gonna work through that. But in the meantime, watch this clip, and I will be right back with you.